Hello friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another installment of books that I wish I read in 2023. So in this installment, I'm trying to finish series. So I have 3 series endings to read and I should have read them in 2023 and I just kept putting them off. I especially kept putting off one in particular, and maybe you can guess what that is, but it is Assassin's Fate. So Assassin's Fate is quite literally the end of the Realm of the Elderlings. There is rumblings that there will be more in the Realm of the Elderlings, but that is yet to happen. So as of right now, this is the end. This is also the end of Fitz's story, who's been our main character for the majority of the series in the Realm of the Elderlings. So I've been just too scared to say goodbye. I've been too hesitant, too scared. I don't know what's gonna happen. Robin Hobb is not notorious for the best series endings, at least in my opinion. But I've seen people sob over this ending, okay? Becca, she has a video where she was sobbing over this particular book and it scarred me for life. So I've put this off for almost a year. So it must be done. I am not gonna film myself sobbing over this. I'm gonna say it now. I'm not gonna film myself sobbing over this, okay? I can't. I also want to read The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. This is the finale of a duology in the Crowns of Nyaxia, but the Crowns of Nyaxia series is actually supposed to be 6 books long. It's just that they are in duologies about specific couples. So I'm counting this as a series ending because this is the ending to our couple, Rain and Aria, who we meet in the first book. And so I'm counting it because I don't know how interlinked all of the duologies are going to be, or if they're just in the same world. I don't really know. Maybe we'll get a full resolution in this one and then the next duology is just in the world and we're dealing with something completely different. I don't know. So I'm counting it. I gave The Serpent and the Wings of Night a 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. And then lastly, which will also be the book that I pick up first, Kingdom of Ash. So I have been on a journey last year of reading the Throne of Glass series. I previously had read the Throne of Glass series all the way up to Queen of Shadows, including Assassin's Fate, and I stopped. And I think it was because Empire of Storms had just come out, and so I was just gonna wait until the rest of the books in the series came out, and then I just never moved on. So I had forgotten so much of this series that rereading it almost felt like the first time, and now Kingdom of Ash I will be reading for the first time, and so I'm very nervous about this ending. I have read most other Sarah J Maas things, and obviously we've only really gotten one ending from her, which is ACOWAR, and I didn't love ACOWAR. There was not much making me nervous. There were some things that happened in that book and then it was almost like false. It wasn't real what was happening. Like, it had a really quick resolution. And so that's just a me problem. I feel like I expect certain things out of finales. So that's why I'm a little bit nervous about this video in general, because I think I have sometimes too high of expectations for finales. I have to say that of all the things I've read by Sarah J Maas, this series will by far be my favorite. I just really appreciate the world building and the characters and the character dynamics, and so it's just been really fun to read the series. Again, very nervous about this ending because I want it to go specific ways, I guess, or I have theories about where it's gonna go, but I just don't think that's gonna happen. I really don't think most of our characters are in danger, is all I'll say. That being said though, since I'm starting with Kingdom of Ash, I will tell you what the Throne of Glass series is about pretty vaguely. Also, this is not gonna go into spoilers about these endings. I'm just giving you my reactions to them. So the Throne of Glass series follows our main character, Celaena, and Celaena is a notorious assassin. But at the beginning of Throne of Glass, we find that she has been locked up in the salt mines of Endovier, and the Crown Prince of Aderlin comes to find her in those salt mines and wants her to be his champion because his father has created this competition where the best assassins, the best killers, whatever you want to call it, are coming together to compete to become the basically royal assassin. The assassin for the king. And so the Crown Prince, Daryan, who is a main character in the Throne of Glass series, comes to find Celaena and ask her to be his champion. And Celaena ends up agreeing because Daryan is offering her a chance at freedom much earlier than she was anticipating. So in Throne of Glass, we do get to see this competition play out. We get to see a lot of Celaena's background and we start to understand her more as a character. We get more of her story of the salt mines and how she ended up there. We get more of the story about Erika and Hummel, who who was kind of another person to enslave her in ways. He adopted her when she was very young, and he was the one who trained her to be an assassin, but he also has such a weird relationship with her because it's almost the dynamic of being a father, but he's not that much older than her, so she often looks at him as a love interest, and it's a very weird dynamic, and she's still sort of battling those feelings and how she feels about him generally. Meanwhile, she's fighting for her life in this competition, and because somebody is doing something shady outside of the competition, and they do think it's another contestant in this tournament trying to take out the competition, but it might be something more sinister. And in Throne of Glass, by the end, it opens up the world and the magic system so much more than I kind of expected, and we continue to explore that more and more and more each book. And I think that at this point, the world is so vast and there are so many interesting characters, and things have shifted so much with our main characters, not just Selena, but even Daryan. And you meet the infamous Kale, who people either love or hate. At this point, you are also introduced to so many different mythical creatures, so many varieties of magic, and an expanded magic system. So there's a lot going on in here. There's also a lot at stake. We've had some big bads in here. We've had a few, and now we are kind of coming face to face with the biggest and the baddest, you could say, in Kingdom of Ash. So I'm expecting this to be really explosive. I'm attached to so many characters in here, and I actually really love Selena as a main character. So I want to say I fear for her, but I also think that Sarah J. Maas does kind of happy endings. So I don't know that I fully fear for her, but I do kind of fear for her. And I fear for what's going to happen to her even if she survives this, because the trauma is real in these books. So anyway, I'm gonna get started with this one, and we'll see if it damages me. Okay, I've started Kingdom of Ash, and I am like 10 chapters in. I don't even know what percentage I'm in, but I think I'm roughly 100 pages. It's already so heartbreaking. It's already so heartbreaking. I may have made a mistake because I am already so emotional. Why did I start out with this one? Well, because I needed to finish it for the House of Massillon live show. That is this coming Sunday. We've already had some scenes that are horrific. They're so upsetting, and I knew it was coming just based on the way that Empire of Storms ends, but I just wasn't ready for it, okay? I wasn't ready to see this happen, and it's kind of why I put off reading this book until the last minute, you could say. But I wanted to take it slow, and I just avoided it, is what really happened. As it stands right now, I would say Queen of Shadows and Empire of Storms are my two favorite installments in the series, and so far Kingdom of Ash is still the same kind of tone as those two. It's just a little more ominous, a little bit more dark, and from what I know, it leans a lot more adult in this one, which you can kind of already tell from Empire of Storm that that's where this was headed. I don't know if any of my characters are safe or not. Sarah J. Maas isn't necessarily somebody that I read where I'm like, I'm so scared for all of my characters, but this series I actually am. I do think there are gonna be some character deaths in here that are gonna hurt. I'm having a good time. I'm glad to be back in the world, but I'm also terrified. This weekend, my patrons and I are doing a 48-hour readathon, and I have a few projects that I need to do today. Namely, I need to finally finish inputting all of my books into Storygraph, which you may have seen the video where I show you all of my owned books. That project took so long. Not just the filming, just all of it. All of it has taken a long time. So I really want to complete that today, and I really hope that I could get at least 50% into Kingdom of Ash by the end of this weekend, which I think is generous. I could probably get further, but I don't think I'll finish it. I just want to get like a good portion of it read so that this week, if things are really busy for whatever reason, I'm not feeling overwhelmed.
Watching movies, I can't stand the black and white. I'm finally torn up enough to see the other side, but I'll take some time. Cause on your first twisting down the track, somebody later move forward to steps back. I don't think that I'm
89 chapters into Kingdom of Ash, and I was just casually making my lunch, minding my business, and I was literally sobbing into my food. I was just casually making my lunch and sobbing into my food. What is this book? I don't really even know how to feel, because one part of me is like, not a lot has fully happened, and I'm 89 chapters in, 89 of 121 chapters. So I would say I'm like 70% into the book. There's been like illusions of things happening, but then it's not really what you think it is. But every single time, it gets tears out of me. Every single time. This has made me cry a lot. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it fully in the end, but it has made me cry a lot. Okay, I just took like an hour-long break to actually eat the lunch that I was sobbing into. I am like 70% into the book. Again, I'm listening to the audio for the most part. I've read a little bit on my Kindle, but I really do love the narration of the Throne of Glass series. So essentially, I have a little over 3 hours left of the audiobook. So I'm pretty sure I'm like 70% into the book, if not a little bit further into it. And I will say, I'm having a really great time. I think this is shaping up to be a really good finale. But that being said, I'm not sure that 980 pages have been warranted for this finale. And listen, I love a long book, I love a long finale, but there's just been something about the pacing that's been throwing me off a little bit. Also, there's this sense of impending doom, and you think that you're getting to a point where that doom is going to be happening, and something happens, it's very emotionally draining, and then it's kind of like we take a few steps backwards in terms of what actually happened. So that's been a little bit jarring, and I'm not saying that I want all of these people to die and I want devastation. Clearly, I don't. It's just that it's making some things a little less impactful. So I feel like it's a lot of starts and stops. And honestly, that's just my only negative critique of the book right now. I am really loving most everything happening. I'm loving the character dynamics. I'm loving what we've seen in terms of the evil people in here, you know, the battle portion of it all, because we all know it was leading to this battle. I am enjoying that aspect. We're getting a lot of tactic rather than the actual battle. And so I'm assuming that that's all gonna happen in this last like 20% of the book. I'm also interested to know if this has a closed ending or not, because I've heard mixed things about this ending, and I'm wondering if it's like based off pacing in the overall book or like the way it actually ends. I am having a really good time. My only critique so far really has been pacing. I think that 980 pages maybe was a little bit too long, and certain things could have been cut. And I'm not even really talking about some of the mundane things in here, because I've said it before. I don't know if I actually said it in a vlog, but when I was reading Empire of Storm and even Queen of Shadows, the thing that I think draws you so much to the characters in here is that there are little mundane, small moments that seem so insignificant, but it's really what draws you to these characters and what really makes them feel real and like their relationships are authentic. And I think that's what attaches me so much to these characters, because I mean, there are even moments when they're just sitting around drinking tea, like making jokes. And I think some of the character situations so far have been more impactful because of these things we've seen throughout the series. I am just hoping that by the end the page length is justified to me, and that it comes together in a way where I'm like, okay, I can see why we spent so much time on these specific things. I'm really hoping that the ending does that for me. Hi, I finished Kingdom of Ash. I finished it last night. I had a good cry. This morning I pondered my feelings and my thoughts on this, and I think I'm settling on like a 4 stars. I could see myself giving it a 4.5. Finales are a little bit harder for me because I think I expect so much out of a finale. So I had some specific expectations which I think were a little too high. That being said, overall, there were many, many moments that made me cry that really like ruined my life. And if I ever see Sarah Janet in the streets, I did struggle a little bit with the pacing, and I struggled a little bit with how safe certain things felt in this finale. So I struggled a little bit with that. I'm not gonna say too much more about it because I don't wanna accidentally like give away too much. It wasn't the finale that I was necessarily hoping for, but it was a really good finale. And as I've sat and thought about it, like even though there was so much in this book that frustrated me, I still think that this was very, very solid. And I think a lot of people will be really happy with this ending. I can definitely see myself rereading this series many, many, many times for many years to come. I have such an attachment to these characters, and I do personally love the Throne of Glass series so far better than my experience with ACOTAR. And I really liked ACOTAR. I mean, ACOMAF is one of my favorite books, and it's probably one of my most reread books. So I will be going into ACOTAR, actually my reread, at the end of this month, I'll be reading the Nesta book for the first time. So I am hoping that that's the one that I like love from that series. But anyway, I'm glad I read it, had a good time. I can't say too much, right? It's the finale. So I don't know if I'm gonna go into another finale right now or if I'm gonna try to pick up something else, because I'm already heartbroken. So I'm like, should I just go into Assassin's Fate and make things even worse for myself? Or should I read that last in this vlog? Hello friends, would you believe it? I have started Assassin's Fate, and I started it yesterday, maybe like early yesterday morning, and I am already 440 pages into it. The thing about Robin Hobb, and I've said this before when I've talked about my experience with Robin Hobb, all of her books are so easy for me to fly through. I don't know what's in them, I don't know what she does, but it's like I need to keep going. And so I get through them very, very quickly. I have really enjoyed this trilogy overall. So if you don't know anything about The Realm of the Elderlings, this is by Robin Hobb. And basically The Realm of the Elderlings is made up of 5 different series. There are a few novellas as well that you can read. And it is broken up into a 3 and 2 series. So 3 of the series follow our main character Fitz, which this one is one of those 3 series. And our main character Fitz is the bastard to the prince in waiting Chivalry, which is why his name is Fitz Chivalry. And so when the Farseer family finds out that he is the bastard son of Chivalry, Chivalry kind of disappears off into the distance. He's like, oh no, I can't handle the consequences of what I did. And his father, the king, decides that it is better to adopt in this bastard and teach him how to be an assassin for the king, rather than later on in life him turning on the crown and trying to assassinate the royal family. So they adopt him in and they teach him how to be a royal assassin, and there is a lot of trials and tribulation and turmoil within this poor child's life. We meet him when he's roughly 6 years old, and throughout the course of the series we see him at various ages. So in the Farseer trilogy, I think it ends when he's like 20 years old. We start the Tawny Man trilogy, he's in his 40s, and then the Fitz and the Fool trilogy, he is in his 60s. So it is a long journey with this character, which is why when you hear people talking about how much they love Fitz, it's because it's been such a journey with this specific character. And you have the Fool. The Fool is another character that you meet in the Farseer trilogy. He is, you know, the king's jester, but he also has more to him than meets the eye. There's a lot going on with him as a character, and the Fool is kind of the thread that ties all of these trilogies together. So the remaining 2 trilogies in this series are the Live Ship Trader trilogy and then the Rainwild's Chronicle. And in the Live Ship Traders trilogies, we are following a completely different family. We are following the Vestshire family, and we get to see their lives be torn apart. The cool thing about that trilogy is we are introduced to this new magic system, and in that magic system we are seeing ships that have thoughts and feelings like humans. They interact kind of like humans, but you find out along the way why they have this specific magical ability to be alive. It all kind of ties together eventually. So in this specific book, Assassin's Fate, I mean, we saw it in the second book in this series, but Assassin's Fate especially, we are seeing characters come together that we met so long ago. We are seeing threads from other stories kind of being unraveled, and this story or coming together or coming to an end in this story. And this is really truly supposed to be the finale of Fitz's story, which is so scary, and this is why I put it off. So far, the pacing of this one is probably one of the better paced books within this world. Robin Hobb kind of has a habit of being a little bit slower and a little bit long-winded. Not that that hasn't happened in here, because we have spent probably 20% of this book like gearing up to go on this really big adventure that will ultimately end in probably tragedy. So it's not to say that there isn't some long-windedness here, but I think because I'm at a point where I'm so invested and I'm also so extremely nervous about what's going to happen at the end of this series, I'm just like, okay, we gotta get going, we gotta go. But I will say that this has one of the better pacings out of all of the books that I've read, and it's been really, really engaging, which not that the other books haven't been, obviously they have, but in comparison, this one has been more engaging. I don't know if that's because of how I'm feeling towards it and like my anxiety about getting to the end and the fact that my feelings are gonna be so utterly hurt and shattered and my life is probably gonna be over and I'm gonna be a husk of a human being. Because the fact of the matter is, Fitz and the Fool are both my babies, and I have never loved characters as much as I love these two characters. I've never been more attached to two characters than I have these two, but again, it's been such a long journey. I'm just like so invested in them. So it's like anxiety city where I'm sitting today talking to you while reading this book. No, but in all seriousness, I'm really, really enjoying it. I definitely feel like this could be a 5-star and that this could be one of the best finales that I've ever read of a series conclusion. I don't know, Robin Hobb isn't necessarily my favorite when it comes to endings, but this is like the end. So we'll see. And that was my silent review. But in all seriousness, I'm gonna get every single book in this series and put it in a pillowcase. And when I see Robin Hobb, you know where I'm going. I'm not an ageist. I don't care that she's in her 80s. Okay, truly in all seriousness, this was an incredible ending to a series, a very long series. Everything comes together. It's a very satisfying ending, I feel. And Robin Hobb is not necessarily known for the most satisfying endings in the world, but now I'm kind of like, was this intentional? Although I know it wasn't. I mean, it was and it wasn't, because Tawny Man was supposed to be the ending of Fitz's story just in general, and then she came back to him in this trilogy. So it feels like maybe she realized that she had another ending in her that wasn't the correct ending, and this definitely was. And so obviously this is all very intentional, and I love that there is so many full circle moments. There's so many answers to things that we've seen throughout the series that we don't necessarily have like the best grasp on, the best understanding of, and you get to see it a lot in this book. I think the one thing about Robin Hobb is that you're never going to completely get the answers I think you're looking for in terms of magic system and lore and world building, because all of these series really rely on your enjoyment and investment of the characters. Because if you don't care about the characters and you don't care about all the drama and the pain and suffering that all of these characters go through, then you're probably not going to have the best time with Robin Hobb. It's very character driven. We do get interesting world building. We do get some interesting magic systems in here. But the thing is they're basically introduced and you're kind of just seeing them play out with these characters in different circumstances. Most of the characters, for the most part, don't really fully have a grasp on their own magic systems. So a lot of times we are learning with characters about different things. And I think that's what makes this so interesting and so engaging, is that you really can place yourself in the story. All of these adventures you feel like you're on with these characters, because not only are you learning with them, you're also feeling the pain that they're feeling. You're feeling the emotions, the ups, the downs. And a lot of the series has a lot of downs. It's very painful. These characters go through so much, but especially Fitz. Until the bitter end, this woman put him through hell. And that's why I'm packing my bags and I'm going to Alaska to give her a visit. It was cruel. It was cruel and unusual punishment, but at the same time, I can accept to the ending. I can accept it. I'm accepting it. I'm just really hoping that she ends up writing that series that she ended up pulling away from because it had a blood plague in it, and then COVID happened and she just didn't feel comfortable publishing it. I don't know if she'll ever go back to that or if she'll take out the blood plague aspect of it, but I would really, really love to know about that series. Like, I would love to read that. I would love to have that actually be published in this world. But as it stands, this is the official ending, and I'm happy that this is the official ending. I definitely think that there were so many full circle moments that like made me very emotional, made me very, very, very emotional. And I think that overall this particular series, the Fits in the Fool trilogy, this one has been the most unexpected journey of all of them, because I definitely went into this series with certain expectations and certain ideas of what I thought was going to happen and where I thought the series was going to go. And it absolutely was not at all what I expected from the beginning, from the very start. It had a completely different tone than I was expecting. There was character development, character introductions that I did not expect, and overall the journey itself was always surprising. And I think that that is a testament to the end of this book as well. It was surprising in such a pleasant way, in that it answers so many questions that I had as a reader. I know most people give this a 5 stars, so I think the majority of people agree with me about this ending. I don't know that this will be the ending that everybody wanted, but it is an ending that you can accept and you can appreciate for how well crafted it is in regards to the rest of the series. I feel like I'm repeating myself. It's 5 out of 5. Like, this is my first 5 stars of the year, rightfully so, because it was incredible. It was an incredible journey. And it's actually really interesting that I feel this way, because the first 2 books in this series, of all of the Fits series, which there are 3, this series actually was shaping up to be one of the weaker ones for me, which was very surprising. But it was kind of shaping up to be one of the weaker ones. Not that weak for Robin Hobb means anything, because it's still like 4 stars, 4.5 stars. But like the other ones, just something resonated a little bit deeper with me in them. And this one, again, very surprising turn of events, very surprising in how dark it was, very surprising in how much of a journey book it is. There's a lot of traveling, there's a lot of going on journeys and quests. And so I think that's also very different from some of the other books. Not to say that those don't happen, they do, but those quests usually take place in the last book for the most part. So yeah, it was very interesting that this series wasn't seemingly shaping up to be my favorite. So I was very nervous for this ending for a lot of reasons, because it was the end. But also I was very nervous that I wasn't going to love this ending as much as everyone else seems to, because I wasn't really enjoying this trilogy as much as other people seem to. But since being fully complete, I have went and watched some like live shows. I know that Becca had a live show on this trilogy. Well, all of them. She had a Realm of the Elderlings read along. It was a slow read along. So I watched that live show. I watched all of the live shows for all of the books in the series, and I definitely can see that most people felt similarly in that read along to me, where I was like, wow, I was nervous because this trilogy, while I was still enjoying it, wasn't how I thought that I would be feeling about it. So I was very nervous going into this one. And I will say that like probably the first 100 pages, I was still very nervous, and then it picked up and it's the 5 star that it deserves to be. So it's funny because now overall I have like very fond feelings about the trilogy as a whole because of this particular book. But I want to start a slow reread of this series. I want to like read it physically, slowly, and annotate over the next couple of years. I feel like now that I have this ending, I'm gonna be able to see so much more of what I missed while I was reading through them the first time. So I'm really, really excited. I'm happy to say it was a successful series ending for me. I'm just kind of in a state of shock. I feel sort of like a shell of a human being because I don't know where to go. My best friends, it's over. Me and my best friends, we're done. is Friday. So Friday is, you know, cleaning day. It's when I vlog the most, which is why I always say it's Friday, it's cleaning day. I'm also doing morning sprints right now. So we started at 9. We've been sprinting for like an hour so far. It's been fun. I'm very low energy today. I think this work week was kind of exhausting, but I did want to update because I am loving Ashes in the Star-Cursed King. Also, I wanted to update on goals because in my first installment of this mini series where I'm reading books that I wish that I read in 2023, I was talking a lot about goals that I had in that video, and many of the goals were like unwinding after work so that I can like wash away the day type of thing, hanging out with people I love more, going on hot girl walks. In terms of reading, you know, I dubbed 2024 as Only Good Books 2024. It's definitely a joke, but it's also trying to DNF more. It's trying to read my backlist books. It's trying to read books that I own versus new releases, and like cutting down on only reading books because they're kind of hyped. I just hadn't had the best of luck with it in 2023. I've said it before, I'll say it again. 2023 was a fairly average reading year for me. It wasn't the worst, but it was just a lot of like okay books. So I'm trying to read more of the things that I've had interest in for a while now, but for whatever reason haven't gotten around to them. And I'm just trying to go a little bit more with my moods in terms of reading and content creation rather than trying to make a video around certain books that maybe I'm not in the mood for, because I do think that that obviously leads to burnout, but also not really enjoying what you're reading, and I don't want to do that this year. So it's been fun to do these videos with books that I wanted to read in 2023 and I probably should have picked up in 2023, but now I'm getting to, and I feel like it's been successful. All of the books that I've read so far have been highly rated, and I can tell you that having started Ashes in the Star-Cursed King, I'm really, really enjoying it. And it'll be the 3rd series that I finish this year, which it's only like the mid of February. In terms of my personal goals, I do think I've been doing all right. My hot girl walks haven't been happening as frequently as I want them to, but I am about to do this 30-day challenge. I think I'm gonna start it at the very end of February, where I try to do cardio for 30 days straight to get myself in the habit of doing cardio not every day, but like to build the habit, you know, where it sticks. So I really want to do that challenge and just see how it changes my relationship with exercising, because as I've gotten older and as my arthritis has gotten worse, my relationship with exercising has really gone downhill. And so I'm trying to change that. So I want to do like a 30-day challenge, and that's going to be happening at the end of the month. So the hot girl walks are happening, but not as frequently as I want them to, which is why we're going to move into this 30-day challenge and see how it goes. I think spending time with people has been good. I've been FaceTiming more people and talking to them more often than I have previously. I'm definitely very good at hermiting. So just FaceTiming people and talking to them is a really big deal for me, because I can literally not talk to people for long amounts of time, and it's a toxic trait that I have. But anyway, Ashes in the Star-Cursed King, I'm 15% in, and this pretty much picks up not far after the end of Serpent and the Wings of Night. This obviously is a completely different type of story, because Serpent and the Wings of Night is a competition story, and like the competition starts right off the bat. We spend basically the entirety of the book in this competition. So Serpent is very different from Ashes, because it's one of those things where once you have a competition book, I feel like Hunger Games was able to get another competition into the second book and it worked, but this one it wouldn't have worked, I guess. But it's just very different, and I think that maybe if you read them back to back, it's a jarring transition, but I read Serpent probably 4 or 5 months ago, so going into this one, I'm not having the same problem I think as other people, because I've been so far away from it that I'm just happy to be back with the characters and see where this story is gonna go. I absolutely love Rain and Aleah as characters in general, and I like them as a couple as well. Obviously, we have some tension happening in the second book between the couple, and so they're not in the best place possible right now, which, you know, adds a little spice to the story. I'm just really enjoying the fact that we're getting a lot more backstory on Vincent, who is Area's adopted father, and he is a vampire. He was the vampire king, vampire lord, and he adopted Aria at a young age because there's always been this war between the different races of vampires, and she happened to be a human kind of caught in the midst of that, and so he adopts her and raises her to kind of be a weapon in ways. So she is human, and she goes into a competition in the first book to try to win immortality, because if you win the competition, the goddess Nyaxia, who created vampires, will grant you one wish. And in this competition, she meets Rain, and Rain and her kind of team up, even though they know that at the end of the Kinjari, they would have to kill each other. One of them has to die because it can only be one winner, but they sort of fall for each other a little bit. So there's a lot of tension, and it's really fun. For me, the competition was done very, very well because it took up the majority of the book, and it was a huge component of the book. It wasn't just like random trials here and there and then a lot of other stuff happening. Like, the trials were a huge part of everything pushing the plot forward, I guess. So I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoy Rain and Aria as individual characters, but also together. I really like them. Their banter and the way that they interact with each other was very funny to me, and I really enjoy it. I'm sad that this is a duology, although I do know most people don't really enjoy fantasy romance that are long series with the same couple. Anyway, only 15% in. I'm enjoying it. We're getting some backstory. There's some tension brewing. Hi, we are not going to talk about my hair because I don't want to. Proceeds to talk about her hair. The reason it looks like this is because I took a shower, and in the middle of getting ready, I was like, okay, I'm just going to finally do my curly hair routine, because if you didn't know, I actually have fairly curly hair, but I straighten it all the time, or like do stuff to make it less curly, because it's a lot of work to do the curls, you know, and get them to where I like how they look. And I'm lazy, and my wrists hurt. That rant over. I did finish Ashes in the Starcursed King, and I am waffling between a 4 and a 4.5. I actually really enjoyed this, and I have seen a lot of reviews from my friends that have talked about this book being weaker than the first one, and I can totally see that, especially like I said earlier in a clip, if you jumped right into this one after the first one, because they are so vastly different. And I can also say that the very end of this, like how it actually ends, the last couple of chapters, it does feel super open-ended, and that's simply because this is going to be a series of duologies. So whatever is being set up in this book is something that I imagine, because we didn't get any resolution with it, it's going to be something that continues on through the next two duologies. Did I say trilogies? I meant duologies. So yeah, this series is supposed to be 6 books long, but it's in duologies following different couples. And I guess maybe going into this, because it's pitched like that, I was kind of expecting open-endedness, but also not as open-ended as this is. I will say you get certain conclusions for things. And I think that Aria, she gets a lot of answers in the end that I was really happy about. And I just really appreciated her character growth and Rain's character growth. I think it's really cool that I loved them so much as individuals and a couple, because I'll be honest, that doesn't always happen. Like, sometimes I'm rooting for a couple, but it's not because I like them individually, it's because I like them together. And in this one, it was the case of I liked them individually and together. And I think Aria is a bad bitch, and I think that Rain is just the sweetest little cinnamon roll. But I can fully see why people would think this is the weaker installment in the duology, especially with how open-ended it is, because there is like a conflict that's building and building and building throughout this book. We kind of have it come to a head, and then something happens that opens up more for the rest of the series, but it feels very unresolved. Maybe you would hope there would be more resolution in the end than there is, which I can agree with. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think maybe it's a 4 stars, but I had a really good time, and I love these characters so much. And I really like Carissa Broadbent's writing. It's so engaging, and I feel like the characters are easy to fall in love with and relate to, and as a character-driven reader, that's so important for me. But also the plot is really interesting as well. I'm looking forward to the rest of the series, and I'm so glad that all of these finales got anywhere from a 4 to a 5 stars. So this is very successful. Yet another installment of books that I wish I read in 2023 where it is more successful than not. So I'm really excited about this. I will also keep you updated about my goals and how I'm doing on them in the next installment of books I wish I read in 2023. That will be the last video in this series, but I will update you once again about my goals and how they're going. But as of right now, the goals are going okay. They're good, not great. But you know what? That's okay. We're trying our best. So anyway, if you've made it this far and you have nothing else to say, please feel free to leave a crown emoji down below, and I will talk to y'all next time. Bye, friends.